Imagine being Allan Brooks and walking this path just to find birds to learn from and draw and paint, which he did obviously extensively, but I mean, you gotta think how hard it was back then. We're gonna be hanging out with the North Okanagan Naturalists Club, and we're gonna learn a ton about birds. So follow me, let's go with the group.
I've never seen a turkey in a tree.
Turkey.
Yeah.
Regular turkeys, yeah.
This beautiful lake, Kalamalka Lake, one of the nicest lakes on the planet. And then this is the view that we end up on.
Allan Brooks didn't just paint birds, he studied them. He lived among them and celebrated their beauty. Today, we're stepping into his world, joining the North Okanagan Naturalists Club for a birdwatching journey in Kalamalka Lake Park. Let's discover the same sights and sounds that inspired Brooks over a century ago.
Hey everyone, we're gonna get into the mind of Allan Brooks. We're gonna be hanging out with the North Okanagan Naturalists Club, and we're gonna learn a ton about birds. So follow me, let's go with the group. We're with Harold, the president of the North Okanagan Naturalists Club, who has been our guide and is going to be our guide. We're out in the woods. We want to feel what Allan Brooks went through. Thank you for walking us around and taking us here on a journey. We were chatting before in the parking lot, but you were telling me now that your wife is also an artist. Does she paint birds by any chance, just like Allan Brooks did?
She has done some, yes. Yeah, so she's done things like our beloved quail that everybody loves to watch here.
Yeah.
And, she's done all kinds of subjects. I guess her favorite would be florals. But she's done landscapes and buildings and scenery, wildlife.
So every Saturday, rain or shine, as it's in today,
Yeah,
we're walking.
pretty much. If it's raining heavily, we probably would all chicken out.
So what got you into bird watching?
After moving here from Ontario, I got involved with the Naturalists Club. I was always involved in hiking, but then I kind of linked up with the Naturalists Club, and bird watching was a big activity with them, so I started learning about the birds here and basically got immersed in it.
What part of Ontario are you from?
North of Toronto.
And is there a variety that are completely different here, there, or you
Oh, yeah.
pretty much find the same?
Very different.
Very different.
A few common species, but generally very different. And that extends to the plant life too.
Of course, yeah.
The plant life is different.
That's a big thing, depending on what kind of birds they are, what they want to feed on, or...
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of bird that you found out here?
I guess there'd be a few. Very interested in bluebirds. So we look after some bluebird boxes as well. Last Monday, my wife and I went to Salmon Arm and saw some pelicans.
Something that I was thinking about with Allan Brooks, now we got to go back 100 years pretty much. My great-grandfather and my grandfather, like, they always dressed to the nines. Doesn't matter if they were working their regular jobs or going to church, they wore the same suits and nice shoes. When I look at photos of Allan Brooks, I mean, he reminds me of what they wore. we're wearing nice hiking boots with treads on them and raincoats. I mean, imagine being Allan Brooks and walking this path just to find birds to learn from and draw and paint, which he did obviously extensively, but I mean, you gotta think how hard it was back then.
I don't know how they stayed cool in the middle of summer. You're right, 100 years ago, we'd probably both be wearing ties and jackets.
and dress shoes that are just flat leather on the bottom, so even to find grip to walk up here. And I'm sure these are pretty much some of the same trails that he might have taken.
Probably.
Because these trails have been around for a while.
Of course, you could pretty much wander wherever you wanted to. There wasn't so much protection of private property and privacy.
Yeah.
The countryside was pretty open.
And if you were a painter yourself, is there places that you would probably stop on this trail that we'll probably end up seeing where you can just grab an easel and start painting?
For sure, there'd be spots where you'd have a view of the lake. Cousins Bay, which we're walking towards right now, is very, very scenic. So that would be one.
We have so many different types of trees and vegetation in our backyard between our neighbors' walls and stuff that one of our trees is completely bare now.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the trees are still green. I don't know when they're gonna fall. And the other one's just starting to turn this color, which looks beautiful. But it's crazy how they're all so different when they fall.
Yeah, they really are. And some never do change color. They stay green and they don't come off until the snow hits them.
Yeah.
But you were asking about favorite birds too, and I was thinking too, in relationship to Allan Brooks, a species that you would find there would be the meadowlark. Everybody loves hearing the sound of the meadowlark in the spring or the summer. So you would find that there, and the meadowlark is actually a species that would be also found back east where I'm from.
Okay.
They're just two different species, but very, very similar. So that's a favorite bird because.
So when you're walking, besides obviously seeing birds, stopping, grabbing your binoculars and viewing them, do you actually listen and then stop and try to see where they're coming from, where the sound's coming from?
Oh yeah.
Or is that 50% seeing, 50% hearing, or is it mostly hearing, stopping, and let's look for where it's coming from?
It's a bit. I would say it's 50-50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not really good at identifying the sounds. There's certain species I can do that with.
Yeah.
But now many of us, we have apps on our phones that we just turn those on and it will.
You can do that?
It will pick up the sound of the bird, identify it.
So I've seen translator apps now. There's bird translator apps.
There's one called Merlin. That's the most popular one.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And you can be walking along and it will filter out the sound of the trail, the crunch of your boots, and it will filter that out. And sometimes it will pick up birds that you haven't even heard yet. It's very, very sensitive. Wow. And quite accurate too.
Wow, that's incredible.
And then there's apps where you can point your camera at something on your smartphone.
Yes.
And it will identify what that is. And then we usually record what we see. Well, many of us record what we see online.
Yeah.
And that feeds into big worldwide databases that track species and so on. It's just phenomenal, the technology.
And on that app, can you save them?
Yes.
And a map, and oh my gosh.
You create your own personal account. It keeps track of your checklists.
So what you've seen, where you've seen it.
Yep. It will keep track of how many different bird species you've seen through the course of the year.
But if you were Allan Brooks back in the day, you had a little journal that you would have to pencil all of this in.
Yes, and there's still people that do that too. They've always used a paper and pencil route, and they might do both. They might be online or on the computer, but
wow.
Well, there's even apps that you could turn on an app, and as you're walking along, you just enter the species as you go. You don't have to wait until you get home.
Wow. So when do you guys do your walks? I know it's once a week, but is it throughout the entire year? Is it about 8 months out of the year?
It is throughout the year.
Throughout the year?
Yeah.
So even when there's snow on the ground, you're definitely going to see something out there.
Oh yeah. We may have a more limited inventory of places we can go to walk in Greater Vernon area, because some places may be snowed in, so the parking lots aren't plowed, for example. So that may limit us, but usually here in the valley, we don't have deep enough snow that it prevents us going for walks. I suppose if it got really deep, we would just bring out our snowshoes.
Not like Ontario or Alberta.
No.
Not that deep of snow.
Even in the midst of summer when it's really hot, we might deal with that by starting earlier in the morning.
Wow.
And maybe shortening the walk too.
Yes. And what about wildlife when you're out here? Have you experienced any?
We've seen...
Besides deer.
Yeah.
Anything that might have put you at ease? Or not at ease, I should say, sorry.
It depends on the person. Some people would be very nervous if they saw a bear. I personally wouldn't be. I'd probably pull out my camera and try to get as many pictures as I could. without being silly about it.
Yeah.
But snakes, bears, a variety of animals like that.
I hear a sound. That is a bird, though.
Possible, yeah.
That's a bird.
And you're younger than me too. You'll pick it up better than I will, probably.
It's a dinosaur. Pterodactyl bird. We just went back in time.
Could be a dog with a high voice.
It's a dog with different types of birds from where you lived in Ontario. Actually, Allan Brooks lived in Milton, Ontario, before he moved to Chilliwack and then came to the Vernon area. So he's seen probably the same kind of birds you might have probably experienced. Is there a type of bird that you'll only see in BC or North Okanagan, for instance, that you wouldn't see in Ontario or anywhere else?
Well, one of my favorite birds back in Ontario was the blue jay. And here in BC, on this side of the Rockies, a blue jay is quite rare.
Okay.
So here we would have the Steller's jay, which you would not find the other side of the Rockies, or not be past, say, Alberta.
Okay.
So that's one that's...
So if you found one, they're lost.
If you found a blue jay, yes, it's kind of lost.
Wow.
It's come over the mountains, maybe accidentally.
Yeah.
But there's some other bird species that I'm sure that would be what they call it endemic here to the Okanagan. I'm just trying to think of some, but there are a number of other species that were kind of at the northern limit of their range. That could be birds such as, I mentioned pelicans earlier, and they have a breeding site up near Williams Lake.
Wow.
So they don't go much further north than this, and we're in an area where when they're transitioning through, either going north or south, we sometimes get them stopping off here. And there can be other species such as some uncommon species of gulls even, that a popular bird watching spot is the mouth of Vernon Creek at Okanagan Lake.
What about 100 years ago? Like if you're Allan Brooks right now walking around, would you have seen birds that don't are extinct now by any chance, or more of a certain type of bird back then that you would see now?
There are a number of birds that would have been seen then, not so much now, or not seen then would be now. A couple examples of the latter, one would be wild turkeys, because they were introduced. So we do have wild turkeys here. 100 years ago, they weren't here.
Okay.
Another one would have been, there's two kinds of doves that we have here. One was introduced into eastern North America and has spread across the continent, called the Eurasian collared doves. And that is really spread. And one that everybody might think has been here forever, but hasn't been, is the quail.
Oh.
They have just increased their range. So it's a California quail, so it came from the southern states, but change in climate and adaptation and so on, it's now here. It's so common here. And
speaking of climate, I always tell people that the Okanagan, like people that haven't been to the Okanagan's like our California. It's like California of Canada. The weather, orchards, vineyards, the lakes. I mean, the weather's so different here. That probably has a lot to do with what kind of birds visit the Okanagan.
It really does. We are at the northern limit of a desert. So we have a lot of dry conditions. We have a lot of grasslands, which are not common across North America, unless you get into the prairies, of course. So those have their own unique species of birds. And some, I suppose, some mammals as well.
How important is bird conservation in the Okanagan, or specifically North Okanagan where we are?
It's very important because there are a number of bird species that are threatened. The numbers are reduced drastically. So efforts that we can make to sustain or even increase their population is important, because many birds do have a beneficial impact for agriculture, and people just love seeing birds, of course. You know, it's one of the, since the pandemic, or even during the pandemic, is one of the fastest growing activities, birding. Because people could do it by themselves, as a couple.
You're right.
Easy to do, inexpensive, and so on. So the Naturalists Club, we've had a number of projects going on that where we are restoring and enhancing environmental biodiversity to encourage bird species to thrive and survive. We put a lot of effort into the Swan Lake Nature Reserve, the south end of Swan Lake. We've been doing a lot of plantings there. We've built an observation tower. We put up an osprey nesting platform.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I haven't seen one in the park before.
that's
And I've
very
never
exciting.
seen a turkey in a
A
tree.
turkey.
Yeah.
Regular turkeys, yeah.
Do you think 100 years ago they would have seen turkeys out here or no?
No.
Introduced.
No, Mike Carlson, who used to be the forest ecologist for the Kalamalka Forest Research Station, he brought them in. He was a really interesting character.
No, that's how they get to survive the coyotes and everything, because they go up, they
'Cause he was
they
quite
roost,
high.
they always roost high.
Wow, I
Yeah.
had
Same-
no
same
idea.
Spend the night.
That's how they spend the night. They roost up, yeah. Yeah, anyway.
I guess mine had a turkey house that it would sit in.
No, good.
Oh, isn't
That's
that
good.
something?
That's good.
Wow.
No, last weekend we probably wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah,
No.
Thanksgiving.
isn't that? Yeah.
That
You're hiding.
one escaped. Someone left the kitchen door open.
Yeah.
So on the west side, so you go up on
On the highway?
the highway,
highways?
and then between the highway and Okanagan Lake on the other side. So it's called and it's last about a couple of months ago we saw 28 there, 28,000.
Is there different types of birds out on the common edge as opposed to here? in
No,
this
it's about
park?
the same.
About the same?
Very similar. Yeah.
Just turkeys are
Yeah.
different.
But in the summertime you see more variety. The bluebirds and so, and then the swallows, but they're all gone now. So it's a bit.
How far south do they go?
So the bluebirds go to central Mexico, The ospreys go to Mexico. Oh yeah. The hummingbirds, same thing. So it's amazing. And then they come back in the summertime to make their nest here and have the brood here. It's just yeah.
Wow.
Heard Linda say chickadee. Could be chickadees or nuthatches again. And then one of the back trees here. I think it's a chickadee. Usually is more than one. Yeah, I see a bunch in a tree off in the distance there, so
I just saw one landing there.
that's most likely pygmy nuthatches. They usually gather in groups.
So what draws you back to meeting the group here every week, every Saturday morning? What draws you back to bird watching, nature walking?
The potential of always seeing something different
Yeah.
that you haven't seen before, or since I like to do photography as well, maybe getting a better picture than I've ever had before. So I guess it's the thrill of discovery. You never know what you're going to see.
You never know what you're going to see. It's always different.
Yep, always different.
Whether it's the weather that's different, you're going to see different birds. We just saw some cactus.
Yep,
That's incredible.
we are in the desert environment here.
Yeah. And then obviously this beautiful lake, one of the lakes that's in the North Okanagan, Kalamalka Lake, one of the nicest lakes on the planet.
For sure.
And then this is the view that we end up on.
Yeah, it's a lake you never get tired of looking at,
Yeah.
because it too can always look different, with different colors and the effect of the waves or the clouds.
Obviously these birds have to live somewhere. You probably stumble upon a lot. Is there different types of nests for different types of birds?
For sure, different places that they would nest. Pretty much everybody in Vernon would be familiar with the heron colonies, so they
Yes.
see those nests up in those cottonwood trees. The Naturalists Club, we have a program where we look after several hundred bluebird nesting boxes that we have installed in various locations around the North Okanagan. So we have volunteers to look after that. So bluebirds tend to nest in nesting boxes. They will nest in a tree cavity, but not enough of those
I
available.
was just gonna say, yeah.
So we put up
Inventory is
boxes.
low.
Yeah, so we put up
Oh, no.
boxes for them.
Nice.
And then once in a while, you're really fortunate, you might see a hummingbird nest, and it's smaller than a teacup. It's just incredibly small.
So thinking back like Allan Brooks right now, this walk that we just did, we're probably like an hour in. Do you think you probably walked this far? Depending on the elements, I guess, and the footwear that he would have at the time?
Probably. He was in his prime. He was probably had lots of energy and strength, and he probably walked even further than this.
Yeah.
Now, being the naturalist he was and wanted to make drawings and so on, he probably stopped a lot. It's similar to what we're doing today.
Well, what I found on him, he had journals, obviously.
Yeah.
Back then, you wrote and drew everything. You couldn't take photos and with your phone and put some notes on your phone or anything. So there's numerous journals where there's photos, drawings, I should say, that he took, and notes on the birds and locations and such. I guess that's where he would have stopped and spent a lot of time. Hopefully, that bird stood there to model long enough.
True. That's probably what he would do. He probably had favorite spots he would go to, and he might just pull out a chair and sit there and
Favorite spots, meaning this is where the birds are probably going to hang out for a long time. They're not going to take off.
Right, through experience or just hope. And other times I'm sure he just wandered and waited for an opportunity.
Stumbled on something.
Yeah.
How do you think bird watching has changed how you see the world?
It's allowed me to see it in finer detail, looking more closely.
And listening closely.
Yeah, that's true. Using more of our senses.
And what about preservation?
Well, it's made me more aware of the need for that and how some species are endangered.
And that's the thing, unless you're out here yourself, you don't know what nature is. You can't be sitting on your keyboard at home or at a pub somewhere with some friends watching a hockey game talking about nature unless you're literally in it.
And sharing the experience with other people, because different people bring different stories and experiences to the event as well.
Yeah.
So someone who's grown up here, lived here all their lives, they have a better perception of how things have changed.
Better understanding, yeah. They noticed all the marmot droppings here.
That's Spain. It's such beautiful.
Look at the colors, yeah. This is one of the best lakes in the world.
It is, yeah.
I mean, you hear about it
True,
everywhere.
true. It's one of the very few lakes that turn that kind of a color, eh? Because of maybe the place of water, who knows where?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So I'm gonna work out while I got this beautiful view. That is hilarious.
Cal Jim.
Cal Jim. There's two of them. If you're Allan Brooks and you come up here, you're listening for certain types of birds or just birds, period. When you eyeball them, I don't know, he probably had binoculars back then. I don't know if binoculars were invented back then. He finds a specific type of bird. He comes as close as he can to draw it or write information about what he's seeing. Is there certain types of birds that'll hang out on a perch longer than others? There's birds that are just like, been here too long, or he's scaring me, I want to go away. And there's other birds just, I can hang out here all day.
Yeah, there's some birds that will perch for a long period of time. Owls is an example. Hawks can do it for quite a long period of time. Even pheasants could be staying still for a long time, or when they move, sometimes they're moving very slowly because they're just foraging on the ground, in the grasslands. So yeah, there'd be certain birds that would stay put. Others, they're just, they're constantly on the move,
So he can just pretty much write down what he saw. It doesn't have time to draw, or hopefully from memory later when he gets home, he can draw from memory. But the ones that do hang out a little longer, he can sit there and write some information about them, draw them as long as he can while they're still there.
Sure, and we were talking earlier about nesting too. So when birds are nesting, that could be a good time to find at least the one that's on the nest being more stationary. And when they're bringing food for the young, of course, they're constantly coming back and forth. So that gives a lot of opportunity to see birds for a longer period of time and more frequently. So
Yeah.
that's that opportunity as well.
Look at the app. It really helps you out. What's the bear trying to do?
Bugs, ants or termites.
Oh, so feasting. Wow.
Yeah, most likely bear.
Looks like.
So we've got a big fir tree and a big ponderosa tree side by side.
Wow.
This is the Douglas fir,
Douglas
the
fir.
ponderosa.
Like I'm saying, maybe 500 years old that way. Because I have several ones at my place which are small and
You did? Yeah. That was 400.
A spider web
Cool.
right there.
One of the oldest ones in the whole valley that
Walking those trails and seeing the birds as Allan Brooks once did, it's like sharing a moment with history. Bird watching isn't just about the birds, it's about connecting with nature and seeing the world through new eyes. Next time, we'll explore how Brooks captured that connection on canvas as we meet a local artist who's helping us understand painting techniques as Allan Brooks once had. See you then.